بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear sisters, my dear daughters. Welcome back to a new episode of the biography of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And again, we came back after a little pause last week. And to wrap up the last lecture that we took, I would like just to remind you that we stopped at the first migration. We mentioned that Prophet Muhammad, after being 3 years of secret calling for the Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed on him on the Quran to start by announcing about the invitation to Islam to Quraysh, to his tribe. And he started with his relatives, and we mentioned how much he was having a very negative reaction from his uncle Abu Lahab. We mentioned his uncle Abu Lahab and his wife, how many times they tried to make everything is bad around him. Also, the rich men and the tradesmen in Quraysh were opposing the beginning of the Dawah, opposing Prophet Muhammad, and many attempts tried to make him harm, and not only him, all the Muslims at that time. We mentioned the new Muslims at that time, they were started to have their share of torment and torture from the disbelievers, and the condition started to be more severe by time. At that time, the first migration happened, first migration to Al-Habasha or Abyssinia. Abyssinia is now the Ethiopia. If you're going to say by the modern countries now, it is referred to Ethiopia, Al-Habasha. So we stopped at that time, and now we're going to know what happened the beginning of this first migration to Habasha, how it became. Actually, after there is a condition evidently going downhill, as we mentioned, Allah relieved his prophet and companion by revealing verse of Surah Al-Kahf about those youth that they were believers, and they were surrounded by rebellions from all their tribe and their people, and they been away from them to a cave. They escaped to a cave with their religion and with their belief. And this was a signal for the Prophet Muhammad to tell his companion to migrate outside Mecca. Mecca now is not considered a safe place anymore for the new Muslims, according to the decision of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And the Prophet already knew that Ashama Negus or Ashama Najashi in Arabic. Negus or Najashi is a title, the title given to any king take the kingship of Al-Habasha or Ethiopia. So Ashama is the name of the king, and Negus is a title. Like we mentioned before about Pharaoh, it's not the name of a person, it is a title given to anyone take the kingship of any country. So the Prophet ﷺ knows that Ashama Negus was a fair Christian ruler in Abyssinia, and therefore encouraged a few of the companions to migrate to him and ask for safety in order to practice the Islamic religion. So as we see, a few of the companions, and not all of them, that could migrate. And even this migration to Ethiopia or to Abyssinia was on two stages. It was not on one stage. The first stage, or the first group that already migrated, was this occurred in the 5th year of prophethood. Is 5th year of prophethood. As you remember, we mentioned before that during the early 1st year of the prophet, 3 years of the prophethood, it was a secret calling. And then from the 4th year, Prophet Muhammad started to have announcement by his message. So we can see that just 1 year, and on the 5th year, increasing during 1 year, increasing the torment and the attacking by Quraysh and by the disbelievers. So it came here, the first migration, in the 5th year of the prophethood. Actually, the believers that migrated were 10 men and 4 women, and from them, including the daughter of Prophet Muhammad, Ruqayya, and her husband was Uthman ibn Affan. They were from the early believers, and the early went for Al-Habasha. The news of the secret migration of the companion eventually were leaked out to Quraysh, whom upon even receiving the news dispatched a few of their men to get them back, only to be disappointed as the Muslim had already left the ports and were warmly welcomed in their haven in Abyssinia, the place, the safe and peaceful place they went through in Abyssinia. And I would like here to share with you, before we go to the slides here. This is actually the map that shows us the distance or the nature of the way from Mecca to Abyssinia. This is Mecca, supposed to be Mecca here. And this is the Red Sea. And this is the Habasha, or the Ethiopia now. So in order to travel from Mecca to Ethiopia, you have, or to Habasha, you have to pass through the Red Sea. And this is what happened actually by the Muslims that already left Mecca. They went to Jeddah. Jeddah now is, all of us know Jeddah. It is a city that's present on the shore of the Red Sea. So they will have the way like this. From the Jeddah to the Red Sea, they took a ship. And from the ship traveled with them until it reaches the borders of Al-Habasha or Ethiopia, where they came here in Al-Habasha. So this was the first migration, and I just wanted to share with you this map to can imagine the way from Mecca to Ethiopia or Al-Habasha. Now we'll come back to the migration. As we mentioned that when Quraysh know about the first migration, they sent a few men from Quraysh, try to follow those migrated Muslims, but they didn't catch them, and Muslim reached already Al-Habasha safely. Then after that, maybe 2 or 3 months later, Prophet Muhammad, of course, still in Mecca with other Muslims with him, and he used to have the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, send down the Quran on him, and whenever there is a new surah or a new ayat, he started to say it and reveal it to the Sahaba, and sometimes he revealed it in the Kaaba or around the Kaaba, and it could be around the disbelievers, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed on him Surah An-Najm. Surah An-Najm, he recited this surah on the Kaaba and around the Kaaba, and the disbelievers were around him, and they heard this surah until the last ayah of Surah An-Najm, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, so prostrate to Allah and worship him alone. فَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ وَاعْبُدُوا. This is the last ayah of Surah An-Najm, and because of the glory and the majestic of the Quran, when the polytheists were hearing this ayah, they unconsciously prostrated due to the power and virtue of these verses. So what happened that this news led of the migrants in Abyssinia to return back to Mecca. They thought that the disbelievers already believed and they turned to Islam just because of their prostration. So what happened that they returned back, the people in the Habasha, they returned back, most of them to be tormented even more harshly than before because they've been captured by the Meccan disbeliever due to what their migration and their escape and the hospitality they found in Abyssinia. And moreover, Quraysh was now more alert of the Muslims' moves out. So what happened, as we mentioned, that when this ayah came and revealed on Prophet Muhammad, Quraysh at that time were hearing and they prostrated. So this news was heard by the people in Habasha, and they thought that the people of Quraysh were already being Muslims, and they returned back. While they returned back, they found the situation is like before. And the disbeliever is still on their arrogance. But actually, some of them were being captured by the disbelievers in Mecca, and some of them could return back to Al-Habasha. But of course, now Quraysh was now more alert for the Muslims who moves outside Mecca. And yet, some of the Muslim managed to remigrate back to Abyssinia, and this time they were more in number. They were more than 80 men and 18 women, led by Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib is a prophet cousin, and he is the brother of Ali ibn Abi Talib. All of us knows Ali. Ali, he will have a very important role in the seerah with us. We'll come to him soon, and how he was very courageous man and how he was very brave, and he defended Prophet Muhammad during the day of the Hijrah, and also after that when he migrated with him to the Medina. So Ja'far is a brother of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he was the leader of the group, the second group that migrated for the second time migrated to Al-Habasha. Now, what Quraysh will do? Now we have a second group that already migrated to Habasha. Quraysh couldn't tolerate a safe haven for the Muslims, and therefore dispatched two of their powerful men, Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As at that time and Abdullah ibn Rabi'a, they were not Muslims. And by the way, they became Muslim later, as we'll come to the Syria, inshallah, when we are passing through the different events. So they will be Muslims later on in the Syria. But at that stage, at that time, they were not Muslims. Amr ibn al-As, one of the believers later on, and moreover, he was from the very close companion to the Prophet Muhammad. He was at that time still disbeliever and being sent by Quraysh with Abdullah ibn Rabi'a. He was Amr was intelligent, very intelligent, and a good what we call it, we can argue well and know in the argument. So Quraysh sent him to the king. We mentioned about the Christian king of the Habasha or the Abassyinia, in attempt to portray the image of Islam badly by using false claims of Muslim against Christianity. When the Negus called for the Muslim, the king, as we mentioned, his name was Ashama or Ashama. When the Negus called for the Muslim to investigate in the matter, Ja'far ibn Abu Talib said his famous speech that turned down the tides against Quraysh. Actually, Amr ibn al-As to the king, he's supposed to be knowing him before, because according to the trades, that Quraysh used to the trade. Amr knows the king Ashama before, and there is a relation between him. He thought that by this relation he can convince him to give him back those refugees, the Muslims, that he can take them back to Mecca. So what happened? That the king called the Muslim group with their leader Ja'far, as we mentioned, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. So we'll see here now. This is, as we mentioned, the way from Mecca to Ethiopia, or the Habasha, as we mentioned before. So here we have the Ja'far speech. Ja'far's speech was very eloquent, and he summarized the condition of them, of the Arab, before the presence of Prophet Muhammad, and before his prophethood, and after he came. And the words that we're going to say now about what Ja'far said to the king is summarizing everything. Ja'far said, when the king asked him about the claim of Amr that they escaped from Mecca because they are not good persons, and they want them back to punish them and to make them prevent their harm outside Mecca. So what Ja'far said, alayhi radiallahu anhu: O king, we were planted in the depth of ignorance and barbarism. We adored idols. We lived in unchastity. We ate the dead bodies, and we spoke with hatred. We disregarded every feeling of humanity, and the duties of hospitality and neighborhood were neglected. We knew no law but that of the strong. When Allah raised among us a man who bears truthfulness, honesty, and purity, we were aware, and he called to the oneness of Allah. He taught us not to associate anything with him. He forbade us the worship of idols, and he enjoined us to speak the truth, to be faithful to our trusts, to be merciful, and to regard the rights of the neighbors and kin. He forbade us to speak evil of women, or to eat the substance of orphans, and to abstain from evil, to offer prayers, to render alms, and to observe fast. We have believed in him. We have accepted his teachings and his injunctions to worship Allah and not to associate anything with him. And we have allowed what he has allowed and prohibited what he has prohibited. For this reason, our people have risen against us, have persecuted us in order to make us forsake the worship of Allah and return to the worship of idols. They have tortured and injured us until finding no safety among them. We have to come to your country and hope will protect us from oppression. This was the speech of Ja'far radiallahu anhu. I can feel that the speech of the Ja'far can be felt now in many of the countries, that the people migrate and leave their own countries to another countries because of that. I'm feeling that this is happening now with specific countries and the people. And by the way, these countries could be having an Islamic character. But actually what's happening inside is not that. So what happened? The Abassinian king, impressed by this speech and ordered to have the Muslims in his country. He told them, you are more than welcomed and you will stay in my country. At that time, as we mentioned before, that Amr is not an easy guy. Amr is intelligent, and he wants to win by doing another attempt, which actually was a failing attempt. What was a second attempt that Amr tried to do? At this time, Amr ibn al-As attempted to persuade Negus by claiming false rumors that the Muslims are embracing against Jesus Christ and Virgin Mary. Of course, he knows what's in Quran, in Surah Maryam. Surah Maryam was Meccan surahs, and Surah Maryam is declaring that Jesus is the prophet and not the son of Allah, and he's not a god. So he realized, Amr, at this moment that this could be a point of conflict between the Christian king and between the Muslim refugee at that time. When the Muslims were recalled by the Negus again, he called them again and started to ask them what you said about Jesus. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib stood confidently and said, we speak about Jesus as we have been taught by our Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that he is the servant of Allah. He mentioned clearly that Jesus is a servant of Allah, his messenger and his messenger, his spirit and his word breathed into Virgin Mary. So here, subhanallah, yani here we can feel that Ja'far, he told the truth, the whole truth that came in the Quran about Prophet Isa alayhi salam, or Jesus. And he didn't try to manipulate. He didn't try to take a gray zone. He just mentioned what came in the Quran and what mentioned by Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And he was very strict and very confident and very trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at that moment, the justice king, the king that Prophet Muhammad told about him, accepted what he heard from Ja'far, although that he was surrounded by priests and those of the Christian people around him, and they were not happy of what they heard. And although that he was he accepted that, and moreover, he believed in Islam at this moment, actually, in his heart. And this king actually believed in Islam and believed in Prophet Muhammad. And we're going to see after that many years when Prophet Muhammad went to Medina, and maybe after 5 or 6 years of his stay in Medina, he had the news that this man died. So when he knew that this king died, he ordered the companions to pray Salat al-Ghaib. Salat al-Ghaib, or the absent prayers, it is a type of prayer that you can pray on someone who died away from you, and you couldn't attend the janazah prayer for him, especially if he is someone who is well known and someone known of his honesty and truthful and justice. So Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, the first one who made this sunnah, that Salat al-Ghaib, its name in Arabic, Salat al-Ghaib, which means that he was Muslim, because Prophet Muhammad will not make prayer on someone who is not Muslim. So we can feel that this man believed at that moment in Islam and kept it in his heart, because he was surrounded by a lot of priests and a lot of important men in the state, in the country at that time. He couldn't reveal and he couldn't make it clear to them that he's Muslim, but actually he died as a Muslim, and his role was very important role during the da'wah, the trip and the journey of the da'wah, that he kept these Muslim, and actually those Muslim kept in Habasha until the migration of Prophet to Medina. and maybe by 3 or 4 or 5 years when they returned back, Ja'far, by the way, Ja'far, having this intelligent and impressive speech, he stayed in Habasha till the 8 years. We came back to, I think, during the 7 year of Al-Hijrah of Prophet Muhammad to Medina, and he been killed and been martyred in one of the battles that he witnessed with the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, after he spent around 76 years in Al-Habasha. And before that, this is after the Hijrah, but we are now speaking before the Hijrah, maybe more than 7 or 8 years away from Mecca. And then he went to Medina, and then he killed in one of the battles with Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. So again, here, as we can see, that after the reply of Ja'far radiallahu anhu, the Quraysh attempts were met with utter failure, and the king, the king of the Habasha, welcomed the Muslims at that time. Now we return back to Mecca. Now we were in Habasha actually, and in Ethiopia, and we had all these conversations between the Muslims and the disbeliever part, and the king in the middle. And then the Muslim at the end, they won this war, the arguments war. Now we return back to Mecca. What's happening in Mecca? Of course, the disbelievers in Mecca were very upset because of the people who already migrated to Habasha. And since migration happened, that means that the number of Muslims will increase and the da'wah will be more spreading. And this is what they hate. They wanted to suffocate this invitation and this message from the start by torturing or torments or killing or the people who are belongs to Islam at that time. Since people are migrated already in another place, this means that there will be a spreading of this message. So they were very arrogant, they were as usual, and they were very upset about that. And the masters of the clan confronted Abu Talib and demanded him to give them the prophet, to kill him, and prevent further spreading of the da'wah. Now they came to Abu Talib, his uncle, and told him frankly, we want Muhammad to kill him. We don't want negotiation anymore. We don't want arguments. We don't want treaty. We want him to kill him. So Abu Talib actually, although that he was disbeliever and actually he died as disbeliever also, he didn't enter Islam before his death. But he loved Prophet Muhammad so much. And we know that he is the one who raised him after his grandfather died. So he told him, my nephew, spare me and yourself. Put not burden on me that I can't bear. At that time, Prophet Muhammad has no support except his uncle. And his uncle is the one who raised him. And now it seems that his uncle started to be affected by the continuous pressure coming from the different believers, the leaders of the believer in Mecca. So what should he do? Should he just forget that and say, it's okay, uncle, as you wish, I don't want to make for you troubles. I know that you are the one who raised me, the one who take care of me. No. The Prophet then stood up and said his famous speech, "Oh, my uncle, by Allah, if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, on condition that I abandon this matter until Allah has made me victorious, or I perish therein, I would not abandon it." So this was very clear decision from Prophet Muhammad that he is insisting on conveying the message of Allah. And he has no other choice either to live to have the victory on those disbelievers, and will happen in a few years coming, or he will perish. If they want to kill me, okay, they can kill me, but I will not leave the message. His uncle compassionately understood his determination by saying, "Go and preach what you please, for by Allah I will never forsake you." This is a very important lesson, my dear sisters and daughters, that we can learn from the Prophet ﷺ. How to be steadfast and how to be firm on your decision. When the decision related to your religion, you don't have here negotiation. You don't have here gray zone. It's very clear. It's crystal clear. So when it comes to your religion, you have to be very firm. You have to be very firm when it comes to your deen, because simply if you negotiate in your deen, you will lose your deen. If you lose your deen, you will lose everything. Even you are be the queen of the world, but without your religion, you will be equal zero, nothing. So Prophet Muhammad here is telling us that we should be on his message after him, carry his message after he passed away. All of us are responsible to carry his message, to show the people how we look like, how peaceful we are, how kind we are, and at the same time we have our constant and values that will never changes by time, because this is what Allah mentioned. If it came in Quran and if it came in the authentic Sunnah, so we all follow. We'll never negotiate in that. We never say we'll take only Quran and leave Sunnah, or we'll never say, oh, okay, in the Quran I can talk those ayat and leave that. Cannot do that. It's a whole package, either to take it or to leave it. And if you're going to leave it, you will be the loser. You are be the only loser. So this is very important that we mentioned that we are studying the seerah for taking lessons. And the important lesson that we are taking here from this event happened to Prophet Muhammad, how much he was strong personality, how he is taking his message between his heart just to convey to us. If he at that moment when everybody around him was against him and the only support to him came and telling him, leave it. We don't want problems. We don't want something on our head. Just leave it and keep us safe, all of us. At that moment, if he obeyed his uncle, there will be no Islam. There will be no message. There will be nothing. There will not be, I am here to speak to you about Prophet Muhammad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he kept him on the right path to continue his message and to convey this message to the Sahaba, to the companion, and from the companion to the successors, from the successors to the followers, and then to us. It's a big favor and bounty from Allah that we have now the Quran with us. And we are reciting Quran with the same way that used to be recited by Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And there is no letter changed in this Quran. So it is a favor of us that kept for us this religion and this deen and this message. And our responsibility is to carry on this message and to make all the people to know what's Islam. There is no need to speak, just your behavior. Your behavior is enough. You don't need to make an announcement or to make lectures or to make, no, just as a Muslim lady or a Muslim girl, you will be the excellent messenger to your religion. Now we come to, after Abu Talib refused the offer of Quraysh, they came with another idiotic attempt, actually. Another idiotic attempt to stop the truth. What they said, Walid ibn al-Mughira, this is one of the leaders of the Quraysh, he went to Abu Talib and proclaimed arrogantly and rather foolishly. He said, "Oh, Abu Talib, we have brought you a smart boy, still in the bloom of his youth, to make use of his mind and strength and take him as your son in exchange for your nephew, who has run counter to your religion, brought about social discord, found fault with your way of life, so that we kill him and get rid of his endless troubles, just man for man." Imagine, imagine how fool they are. They are bringing for him a boy, young adult for him to exchange for Prophet Muhammad. Yani they are telling Abu Talib, give us your nephew to kill him, and we'll give you this boy instead, and start to raise him and live with him, and he will compensate you and make everything good for you. So Abu Talib actually replied, "It's really unfair bargain. You give me your son to bring him up, and I give you my son to kill him? By Allah, it is something incredible." So here we can see how much they were out of mind, because this is a very foolish attempt. How you can come to bring me someone to tell me, take this boy to raise him for us, and we'll take your boy and we'll kill your boy. How could, who is having any degree of mindfulness that he will agree on that agreement? It's nothing. It's so this to give us how much they were in vain. They don't know what to do by the waves and by the strength of Prophet Muhammad and by his steadfasting and his firmness on the right path. So after Abu Talib told him this reply, what was the reaction of Quraysh after that? This is what we're going to know and more next time إن شاء الله. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك الله بحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.